He called me mom, but that night, nothing about what he did felt motherly. I was folding laundry when it happened. Simple, boring laundry in the quiet of our suburban home. My husband, Rick, was on one of his usual business trips, off somewhere in Seattle, closing another deal. It had been just me and Brandon for the past 2 days, and even though I told myself to keep my distance, I didn't. I let the air stay too thick, let the silences stretch too long. Brandon had always been polite, a little quiet, the kind of kid who opened the door for me and said, "Yes, ma'am," out of habit. But something changed after he turned 22. His eyes lingered too long. His hugs lasted a second more than they should. And I noticed. I pretended not to, but I noticed. That night, the storm hit hard. Rain came down in sheets against the kitchen windows, thunder rumbling through the walls like a living thing. I was curled up on the couch in Rick's oversized t-shirt, sipping tea and watching reruns of some show I wasn't really paying attention to. Brandon came down from his room in just a pair of gray sweats and no shirt. No shirt. I told myself to look away, but I didn't. He sat beside me on the couch, not too close, but close enough for the warmth of his bare skin to make my breath stutter. The silence hung between us like a loaded gun. "You good?" he asked, his voice low, deeper than I remembered. Maybe it was the storm, or the wine I'd had earlier. Maybe it was the weeks, months, of feeling unseen by my husband. I nodded, but the lie was heavy. Brandon leaned in slightly, our shoulders touching. I felt it like a jolt in my bones. "You're always alone when he's gone," he said. I swallowed. "It's part of being a wife. That's not what a wife deserves." The way he said it, slow, deliberate, sent a flush through me. I wanted to tell him to go to bed. I wanted to move, to laugh it off, to be the mature one. But I didn't. I looked at him and he looked right back. There was no pretending anymore. I still don't know who moved first. Maybe it was both of us. Maybe we were pulled together by something bigger than either of us. Our lips met like it was the most natural thing in the world. No hesitation. No awkward pause. Just heat. His hand cupped my jaw like he'd done it 1,000 times. My fingers tangled in his hair, soft and wild. The kiss was wrong. So why did it feel so right? We pulled apart, both breathing heavy. My heart thundered louder than the storm outside. "I shouldn't," I whispered. "I know," he said. "But you didn't stop." Neither did he. He kissed me again, slower this time. His hands slid down my sides and I let them. My mind screamed no, but my body begged yes. The need was stronger than guilt, louder than shame. I let him touch me, and I touched him back. That night, I crossed a line I could never uncross. I was his stepmother. He was my husband's son. But the moment he touched me, I wasn't a mother or a wife. I was just a woman who hadn't been seen, hadn't been wanted in far too long. And Brandon? He saw me. The way his lips moved on my skin, the way he whispered my name, it wasn't lust. It was worship. Dangerous. Addictive. Forbidden. Afterwards, we sat in silence, the weight of what we'd done thick in the room. I tried to speak but couldn't. He reached over, brushed a strand of hair behind my ear, and said, "We'll keep this just between us." But I knew deep down, I was already in too deep, and I didn't know how to stop. If you're already holding your breath, trust me, it only gets wilder. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss the rest of this twisted stories. Somewhere deep inside, I thought I could end it. But his eyes, his touch, the way he whispered my name, it kept dragging me back. I woke up the next morning in a daze. My sheets still smelled like him. My body ached in the most sinful ways. For a brief second, I wanted to believe it had all been a dream, that the wine had spun a fantasy and I'd simply fallen asleep on the couch. But then I turned over and saw the faint imprint of his fingers on my thigh. It had been real. Every breathless second of it. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the floor. The sound of rain had quieted, but the storm inside me was just beginning. How had I let that happen? I was supposed to be the adult, the mother figure, his father's wife. And yet, the way he touched me made me forget all that. I told myself it was just a one-time mistake, a moment of weakness. But even as I tried to convince myself, my body tingled with the memory of him, his lips, his hands, the heat of him pressing into me. I took a deep breath and went downstairs, determined to face him like nothing had happened. He'd probably be avoiding me too. Maybe he'd be embarrassed. Maybe we could pretend it never. He was in the kitchen, shirtless again, this time wearing nothing but boxers, cooking scrambled eggs. The nerve. "Good morning," he said, turning to me like we were any normal mother and stepson. "Hope you're hungry." I blinked. "Brandon, what the hell are you doing?" He smiled like I was being ridiculous. "Making breakfast." "Like that?" He shrugged. "It's just us." I crossed my arms, trying to build a wall between us. But he was already inside it. "We need to talk about last night." He walked over, his movements slow, predatory. "We do. But you're not mad, are you?" I didn't respond. Couldn't. He came closer until his bare chest brushed against me. And I swear my knees almost buckled. "Because I'm not sorry. Not even a little." "You should be," I whispered. "Are you?" I should have said yes. Screamed it. But instead, I looked away. He lifted my chin with a finger. "I think we both know what that means." I pushed him gently away and walked to the coffee machine, pretending to focus on anything but him. "We can't keep doing this, Brandon. It was a mistake." It didn't feel like one. Well, it was. He didn't argue. Just nodded and returned to the eggs like I hadn't just told him to stop undressing me with his eyes. But stopping wasn't easy. That week, Rick came back from his trip. He walked through the front door carrying flowers for me and gifts for Brandon. He kissed my cheek, told me he missed me, and never noticed the way I flinched. Guilt sat like lead in my stomach. I cooked dinner that night while Rick and Brandon talked about football. From the kitchen, I watched them, father and son. I used to admire their bond. Now I was terrified of it. I was sleeping with the son of the man I married. I didn't eat much. I kept my eyes on my plate, and my legs pressed tight under the table. Brandon, on the other hand, couldn't stop looking at me. His foot brushed mine just once and I nearly jumped. My fork clattered against the dish. "You okay?" Rick asked. "Yeah," I said quickly. "Just tired." He smiled and placed a hand over mine. "Get some rest after dinner. I'll clean up." I nodded, my throat too tight to thank him. That night, I told myself I would put an end to it. I avoided Brandon's eyes, kept my bedroom door locked, and turned off my phone. For 2 whole days, I didn't speak to him unless Rick was present. I thought I was doing the right thing. Until Friday night. Rick had an office dinner, formal, boring, and something I'd usually attend. But I told him I wasn't feeling well. "You sure?" he asked, rubbing my back affectionately. "Yeah," I smiled. "I just need to rest." He kissed my forehead and left. And I watched him walk out the door, knowing what I was about to do. I told myself not to go upstairs. Told myself not to look for Brandon. But at 9:17 p.m., I found myself standing outside his room, hand hovering over the knob. Before I could knock, the door opened. He stood there shirtless again, like he'd been waiting. "I told myself I wouldn't come," I said. "I knew you would," he replied. He stepped aside and I walked in. It wasn't lust this time. It was something darker, wilder. We didn't speak. We just let our bodies say everything our mouths couldn't. When he touched me, it wasn't rushed. It was slow, intentional, like he wanted to memorize me. And I let him. Afterwards, I lay in his bed, curled into his chest like some teenage girl with a secret crush. I hated myself for how safe I felt. How seen. "I think about you all the time," he whispered against my hair. I pulled back. "Brandon. No. Listen." He looked at me, eyes glassy. "This isn't just sex for me. I know it started like that, maybe, but it's more now." "Don't," I said quickly. "Don't say that. It's true. I don't care that you're married to my dad. I don't care what people would say. I want you." I sat up, heart pounding. "You don't know what you're saying." "I know exactly what I'm saying. I've wanted you since I was 17. I just didn't think you'd ever want me back." I stared at him, stunned. That truth, it hit harder than anything else had. "I can't leave your father," I whispered. "I'm not asking you to. Not yet. But you want me to." He didn't deny it. The next morning, things felt different. He was bolder, more relaxed while I was on edge. Every touch, every glance was like walking a tightrope. That Sunday, Rick asked Brandon to help him clean the garage. I watched them work together through the kitchen window, sweating, laughing, completely unaware of what we'd done. And for the first time in days, I felt sick. I walked to the bathroom and threw up. That night, I confronted Brandon again. We have to stop. He stood by the bedroom door, arms folded. You've said that before. I mean it this time. So do I. I stared at him, frustration boiling over. This isn't a game. I'm not playing. I'm your stepmother. He took a step forward. And you're a woman who hasn't been touched right in years. That shut me up. You don't think I see it? He continued. The way you flinch when he touches you? The way you look at me like I'm the only one who still makes you feel alive. I don't want to feel this way. But you do. He closed the distance between us, grabbed my hands. I know it's wrong. I know it's dangerous. But we can't keep pretending we don't want it. I looked up at him, tears blurring my vision. I wish I didn't. But you do. And I gave in again. On the washer, in the laundry room. The same place I'd folded his clothes that morning after our first night together. Only now, I wasn't folding anything. I was falling. Sunday morning church bells echoed down the block. I sat at the breakfast table with Rick and Brandon. The scent of fresh bacon in the air, and the Bible playing faintly on the radio in the background. You'd think we were the perfect American family. God, how easy it would be to believe it. But I couldn't meet Rick's eyes anymore. I stabbed at my eggs, chewing like a robot. Brandon sat directly across from me, his leg occasionally brushing mine under the table. I tried not to react, but every time he touched me, even the most innocent graze, I flinched inside. It had been a week since the laundry room. A week of sneaking around, lying to myself, to my husband, to God. Rick reached across the table and took my hand. You've been quiet lately, he said gently. Everything okay? My stomach turned. I smiled. Just tired, that's all. You've been tired a lot, he said, his brow creasing. Maybe we need a weekend getaway, just the two of us? My heart sank. A weekend? With Rick? Brandon looked up from his plate, his jaw visibly tightening. That's a good idea, I said quickly, more to escape Brandon than to be with Rick. Let's plan something. All right then. We'll talk tonight. I nodded, but the panic was rising. I could feel Brandon's stare on me. And I knew it wasn't over. Later that day, I was in the pantry organizing when Brandon cornered me. I heard him, he said, voice low, intense. You're going away with him? I blinked. You were listening? He wants to reconnect with you, he said, mocking his father's words. Is that what you want too? I don't know what I want anymore, Brandon. He stepped closer. Yes, you do. Please, I said, backing against the shelves. Don't make this harder than it already is. He reached out, his fingers brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. I don't have to make it harder. You do that all on your own. Don't, I said, voice trembling. He didn't stop. He leaned in, his lips hovering just inches from mine. You keep pretending this is something you're being pulled into. Like you're a victim of it. But you're not. You're in it just like I am. I shook my head. I'm married to your father. He kissed me anyway, slow and deliberate, the kind that made my bones melt. My knees buckled, and he held me there, pressed against jars of pasta and canned soup, like I was something fragile he needed to own. And once again, I didn't stop him. That night, I broke down in the shower. I cried until the water ran cold, and even then, I didn't move. I stayed there, numb, my hands gripping the tile. My body still tingling from his touch. I wanted to scream. I wanted to disappear. I had a husband who loved me. A house, a stable life, everything a woman could ask for. So why was I sneaking into my stepson's bed after dark? Why did it feel more real than anything I'd ever had with Rick? I started avoiding eye contact. I barely touched Rick. Every time he reached for me, I flinched, afraid he'd smell Brandon on my skin. At dinner one evening, he looked up and said, "Do you still love me?" The question hit like a slap. What? I said, caught off guard. You don't touch me. You barely look at me. Have I done something? I swallowed hard. No. I mean, it's not you. I've just been going through something. He nodded slowly, his eyes filled with sadness. Is there someone else? My chest clenched. No, I said too quickly. Of course not. He sighed. All right. But if there is, please just tell me. I'd rather hear it from you than discover it another way. I nodded and looked away, unable to speak. Guilt burned through me like acid. But it didn't stop me. That weekend, Rick left for a quick overnight trip to Chicago. Some emergency client thing. I told myself this was my chance to end it for real. I'd stay in my room, keep the door locked, block Brandon's number. But when 10 p.m. rolled around, and I still hadn't heard him come up the stairs, my resolve cracked. I walked downstairs in my robe, heart pounding. He was in the garage, shirt off, fixing something under Rick's old Dodge. Why are you working this late? I asked from the door. He looked up, sweat glistening down his chest. Couldn't sleep. I swallowed. Neither could I. Figures. I stepped inside, closing the door behind me. I need to say something. Don't. No, I need to. I stood a few feet away, arms crossed. This is wrong. I know it, and you know it. It's ruining everything. Is it? He said, stepping toward me. Because every time you say that, you come back. That doesn't mean it's not destroying me. Then stop lying to yourself. He grabbed my waist, pulled me against him. I should have pushed him away. I should have screamed. But I didn't. We kissed. Again. There in the garage, surrounded by tools and oil and the ghost of Rick's car. He bent me over the hood like something out of a movie. And I let him. I let him ruin me. Again. Afterwards, I sat in my room, wrapped in a towel, unable to look at myself in the mirror. I stared at my reflection and whispered, "Who are you?" But I didn't recognize the woman looking back. On Monday morning, I packed Rick's lunch like always, kissed him goodbye like always, and smiled like I hadn't betrayed him the night before in his own garage. As he left, Brandon brushed past me in the hallway. I didn't speak, but his hand grazed my waist and he whispered, "I need to see you tonight." I didn't respond. I just stood there, frozen numb. That evening, I sat in bed scrolling through old pictures. Rick and I from our wedding. Me and Brandon at his college graduation. Family cookouts. Vacations. We looked happy, but something was always missing. In those pictures, I saw a woman who smiled, but her eyes didn't sparkle. She looked content, not desired. That's what Brandon gave me, desire. He looked at me like I was magic. Like I wasn't just someone's wife or mother. Like I was fire and silk and temptation. And I hated how much I needed that. I heard a soft knock on my door. "Come in," I said before I could stop myself. Brandon stepped in shirtless, in sweats. Always in sweats. "We shouldn't," I said, already folding the blanket back. But we did. Again. In the dark, his breath on my neck, I whispered, "I can't keep doing this." He kissed my shoulder. "Then don't. But you'll miss me." I closed my eyes and for once didn't deny it. Secrets have a way of crawling into the light, especially when you've buried them in your own home. The day started like any other. Blue skies, birds chirping, and the smell of cinnamon rolls from the oven. I smiled to myself as I wiped down the counter, pretending, like I had done for weeks, that I was a normal wife in a normal home. Rick was in the shower. Brandon had left early for the gym, and I was alone with my guilt. But something in the air felt different. Heavy. Off. I walked into the living room to tidy up, and that's when I saw Rick's phone on the coffee table. Odd. He never left it lying around, especially not unlocked. My gut twisted. Something was wrong. I reached for it, hesitating just a moment, and tapped the screen. It lit up instantly. Messages open. A thread with Brandon. The most recent message from my husband read, "We'll talk tonight. I'm not stupid." My blood ran cold. I scrolled up, my hands trembling. Photos. A shirt she wore last night. A time-stamped message from Brandon. "She was with me, not you." The world blurred. I dropped the phone like it burned me. He knew. I paced the kitchen in full panic. My chest felt tight. My throat was dry. I grabbed my keys, then dropped them. Where would I even go? How could I run when the truth was already out? The bathroom door creaked open behind me. "Good morning," Rick said, stepping into the kitchen with a towel around his waist, drying his hair. I turned, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear. "You left your phone." "I know," he said calmly. He didn't sit, didn't smile, just stared. "I saw the messages," I confessed, my voice cracking. "Rick, How long?" he asked, his voice low. I opened my mouth, but no sound came. "How long?" he shouted this time, slamming his fist on the counter so hard the salt shaker jumped. I flinched, tears spilling down my cheeks. "Since the storm," I whispered. "That first night you were away." Rick stepped back like I'd punched him. He ran his hands through his hair, pacing. "You and my son?" he muttered. "My own goddamn son. I didn't plan it." "Oh, so that makes it better?" "No. I was lonely, Rick. You were always gone. I felt invisible. He made me feel." "Don't you dare say he made you feel alive," Rick snapped. "Don't feed me that soap opera bullsh *T. That's my son." I collapsed into a chair, sobbing. He paced like a madman, muttering to himself. "I gave you everything," he said. "A home. A family. I took care of you." "I know. And I'm sorry. I was weak." "No. You were disgusting." That evening, Rick left. He didn't take a bag. Didn't say where he was going. He just grabbed his keys and walked out the front door without another word. I sank onto the couch and sat there in silence for hours. The sun went down. The kitchen lights buzzed. But I didn't move. At 10:42 p.m., Brandon came home. He stepped inside, dropped his gym bag, and walked into the living room. "You okay?" he asked. I looked up at him. "He knows." Brandon froze. "What?" He read the messages. He ran a hand through his hair. "What did he say?" "He left." Brandon took a deep breath and stepped closer. "Maybe this is a good thing. Maybe now we can finally be together." I laughed bitterly. "You think this is a good thing? I destroyed everything. You weren't happy with him. You were just surviving. He's your father. He never gave a damn about me. That doesn't make this okay, Brandon." He knelt beside me, took my hands. "I love you." I pulled away. "Don't say that." "It's true." "No. It's obsession. It's lust. It's guilt and shame wrapped in heat and chaos. But it's not love." His eyes darkened. "So what now? You're going back to him?" "I don't know. But I can't do this anymore." He stood up, jaw clenched. "You said you felt alive with me." I did. But feeling alive doesn't mean living right. 2 days passed. Rick didn't call. Didn't text. I went about the motions, showering, eating, cleaning, like a ghost. Brandon stayed in his room. We didn't speak. On the third night, Rick returned. He walked into the house with a face like stone. "I want him out," he said. "Rick, please. You want to save any part of this marriage, he leaves. Tonight." I nodded, tears brimming again. "Okay." Brandon didn't argue. He packed in silence. No goodbye. No parting kiss. Just a slammed door. The days after were quiet. Rick didn't speak much. He stayed late at the office. I spent most of my time sitting on the porch, staring at nothing. The house felt colder without Brandon, even with all the shame and tension. Sometimes I caught myself reaching for my phone, wanting to message him, to say sorry, to ask if he was okay. But I never pressed send, because I didn't know what I'd say. A week later, Rick sat across from me at dinner. "I'm going to stay with my sister for a while," he said. I nodded. "Okay." He paused. "Do you want a divorce?" I hesitated. "I don't know." He shook his head slowly. "I don't know if I can ever look at you the same again." "I understand." He stood up. "I'll send the papers when I'm ready." Then he left. Again. Brandon messaged me that night. "I miss you." I stared at the screen for 10 full minutes. Then I deleted the message. I turned off my phone and went to bed alone. That night, I dreamed of fire. Of hands. Of mouths and skin and secrets too heavy to bury. I woke up crying. But for once, I didn't reach for someone else. I sat up, took a deep breath, and faced the quiet. I didn't know what came next. But I knew this. Whatever love had meant between Brandon and me, it had burned too bright, too wild. And now the ashes were all that remained. This story took you into the darkest corners of desire and betrayal. If it left you breathless, stunned, or even conflicted, like and subscribe for more dramatic, mature stories that push the edge of emotion and morality.